If you can't focus the way you used to, it's not because you suddenly became lazy. It's because your attention is being chipped away. One notification, one tab, one tiny switch at a time. Today I want to show you, in plain language and grounded in cognitive science, how that happens and how to start can be game. Be honest. How long can you read before your hand drifts to your phone without your permission? How many times have you reread the same paragraph? Because your eyes kept moving, but your mind slid off. You sit down to answer one email, and somehow you're checking tracking numbers. Googling a random question, you're in a meeting, you feel slightly bored, and before you even notice it, your thumb is refreshing a feed you don't even like. At the end of the day, you feel busy and weirdly exhausted, but can't point to what you actually finished. There's a particular kind of guilt that comes with that. Like you wasted something you can't name. Here's what the brain is doing underneath that experience. Your attention is in a spotlight you point wherever you want, for as long as you want. It's more like a small pool of light that constantly negotiates with the world. That pool is powered by a limited system, working memory and executive control in your prefrontal cortex, and some researchers argue it's about 4 chunks of information, not 20, not 10. 4. When you try to juggle more than that, your brain has to drop and reload items, and every drop and reload costs energy. Your nervous system also runs a salience filter. It scans for what's new, uncertain, or emotionally charged and pushes that to the front. Unexpected stimuli, like a random ping with unpredictable contents, release little bursts of dopamine that say, this might matter. That doesn't mean it's important in a life sense, just that your brain tags it as worth looking at. This is great for staying alive in the wild. It's brutal when you carry a pocket device designed to generate novelty every 12 seconds. Over time, your reward system gets trained to expect micro surprises. Long tasks with no immediate surprise start to feel like a kind of deprivation. You call it boredom. Your brain calls it, where are my hits? Now, about multitasking, your brain doesn't do tasks in parallel. It does fast serial switching. When you bounce between writing a report and checking a message and glancing at a headline, your prefrontal cortex has to reconfigure the rules each time. What matters, what to ignore, what to retrieve from memory. Each switch leaves what psychologists call attention residue. A little piece of your mind stays stuck in the thing you just left. And that residue can slow you down for minutes. Multiply that by dozens or hundreds of tiny switches, and you're trying to think with a foggy windshield. Fragmented inputs make this worse. Think about how you consume information now. Short clips, half-read, threads, headlines, without articles. Podcasts at 1.5x while you answer texts. Your brain builds meaning by stitching. When the sequence is constantly interrupted, your mind ends up with lots of fragments and few intact stories. There's also something called an attentional blink. When your brain tags a stimulus as important, there's a brief window where you're less likely to register what comes right after. If your day is filled with look at this moments, you're constantly blinking. The result is a persistent sense that you're missing something and should check again, which pulls you into another loop. Here's an uncomfortable but liberating insight. Attention isn't mostly a personal virtue. It's a resource. And resources are used up by the conditions around them. If your environment constantly cues you to switch, your focus gets spent on switching, not on thinking. This flips a common narrative. You don't need to become disciplined in an abstract moral way. You need to stop paying fees to a system designed to collect them. Your attention isn't broken, it's overcommitted. Another reversal that helps. Distraction isn't the opposite of focus. Distraction is what happens when your brain tries to resolve too many open loops at once. Every unread badge. I'll get back to that. Every conversation without closure creates a tiny loop your mind wants to close. That's it. The more loops you carry, the more your working memory stays occupied, and the easier it is for anything shiny to yank you around because you're already near capacity. So when you find yourself checking your phone mid-sentence, It's not just weak will. Your mind is trying to reduce uncertainty the fastest way it knows how, with a quick hey about the inner noise when you finally sit still. Your brain has a default mode network that lights up when you're not engaged in a task. It wanders, predicts, rehearses, worries. We used to give that network space during idle time, standing in line, staring out a window. Long showers without a speaker? Those were not wasted moments. They were how the brain sorted, consolidated, and integrated. We filled those spaces with inputs, and now the default network doesn't have room to settle. Ironically, the antidote to a restless mind is not more stimulation. It's allowing real emptiness long enough for the system to reset. When was the last time you let boredom last? For 5 entire minutes without fixing it. Let's pull this together. Information overload means far more inputs than your attention system was built to handle. Rapid task switching taxes your executive control, leaving residue that slows you down. Fragmented consumption trains your brain to expect constant novelty and rewards it for shallow sampling. The practical effect is predictable. You feel scattered, you can't sink into anything, and you blame yourself. But blaming yourself is like yelling at your car's engine for using gas. The engine is doing what it was designed to do. The problem is that you're on a road with tolls every half mile. So how do you start repairing attention in real life, in an ordinary day with Slack and kids and laundry and bosses? You can't will your way out of a design problem. You have to redesign what your attention is exposed to and retrain what it expects. Start by lowering the number of invitations to switch. Turn off all non-essential notifications. Like all of them, by default. Set your phone to do not disturb for specific windows and tell the 2 or 3 people who truly need you how to reach you. Put messaging apps into folders off your home screen. Make your phone screen grayscale. It's small reduction in say on the computer. Try the single tab rule during deep work. Not always. Just during the block that matters. If you must keep reference tabs, park them but don't keep feeds open. And when the urge to check hits, and it will, don't fight it with teeth clenched. Capture it. Keep a parking lot page or a sticky note next to you, and write down the urge, check weather, text Jamie. Look up that thing. Once your brain trusts that you will return to it, the urge loses force. That tiny act frees up working memory. Give your attention a warm-up because your brain doesn't jump from fragmented mode to deep mode on command. Build a 2-minute ritual before a focal block. Close your eyes. Name the one outcome you care about. Take 3 slow breaths and feel your feet on the floor. Dim the screen a notch. Put the phone in another room or face down. See? Rituals tell it. We're switching modes now. Start smaller than you think. If you haven't done real monotasking in months, asking your brain for 90 minutes of deep focus is like asking someone who hasn't run since high school to do a half marathon. Start with 10 clean minutes. 10 minutes where you do exactly one thing with your full attention. Stop before you hate cowger. You're not just getting something done. You're teaching your nervous system that depth is safe again. The other side of the equation is to let your reward system recalibrate. Right now, it's used to a diet of variable, high-flavor novelty. So deliberately lower the intensity of your inputs in certain parts of your day. Do 1 commute a week without a podcast. Drink your morning coffee without screens. Just sit there, taste it. Let your mind be vaguely bored. Replace the last 30 minutes of your night scroll with a paper book or a very slow walk. At first, this will feel itchy. That itch is withdrawal. If you move through it instead of fix it, see, after a week or 2, you'll notice that it's easier to stick with a paragraph. That you don't need to touch your phone at every gap. Batch the work that's built for switching. Communication, admin, microtasks, collect them, and handle them in 2 or 3 windows a day. You won't miss anything vital, and in exchange you'll reclaim huge blocks of uninterrupted attention. The reality of modern work is that deep focus often comes in 1 or 2. Aim for 1 60-90-minute deep block and 1 shorter one. Protect them like appointments. Most important, when someone interrupts you, you need to switch by necessity. Leave a breadcrumb. Type the next sentence you intend to write in brackets. Jot down the next step before you walk away. That was all. Make your physical environment do some of the work. If your phone is on your desk, you will touch it. Put it across the room. If certain apps are your kryptonite, log out after each use. The small friction of a password or a few extra steps might be enough to tip you from impulse to ingela. Your brain's attentional systems are biological. Sleep deprivation and constant caffeine spikes make attention brittle. If you're riding a caffeine roller coaster all day, notice the crash windows and schedule lighter tasks there, instead of trying to do your most complex thinking. There is nothing wrong with aligning your work to That's not weakness. That's smart design, a quiet but powerful practice. Set aside a daily zero-input block. 10 to 15 minutes where nothing comes in. No audio, no social, no reading. Just sit, or walk, or stare at a tree. This feels unproductive because you can't point to a visible output, but this is where your default mode network integrates, where half-formed ideas become clear, where your internal noise decelerates. It's also where you notice how much you've been running. Ask yourself in that silence, what exactly am I afraid will happen if I'm not available for 15 minutes? Where did I learn that being reachable equals so? Sometimes, the belief that you must respond immediately is the real thief. And one more question that can change your day. If your attention were cash, would you spend it the way you do? On every tiny ping, every half thought, every swipe. What would you buy with it if you treated it like money, one significant thing, or 1,000 pennies you don't remember? The beautiful part is that attention repairs like a muscle. It grows with gentle stress and adequate rest. The first days you'll feel restless. The second week you'll notice you can go longer before checking. In a month, the fog lifts in places you didn't expect. Conversations feel richer, cooking feels like a thing, and reading be bad. You realize that focus is not an identity. It's a practice supported by a habitat. You change the habitat. The practice follows. If any of this landed, try one small change today. Turn off 5 notifications you don't need. Put your phone in another room for your next 10-minute task. Leave one commute quiet, leave a comment and tell me one input you're going to remove this week. Or one ritual you'll try before a focus. I read that. If you want more conversations like this, calm, practical, grounded in how your brain actually works, tap like so. This reaches the people who need it, and subscribe for the next deep dive. Take back your attention, not by fighting yourself, but by designing a life your mind can live in.